Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today is November 3rd, 2025. Glad you're here. With me today, we have Beth. I'm Brian. We'll see who else pops in the door, but we're here either way to get your day going. We have a few news stories that we definitely want to talk about that have come in through the wires as they are since Friday. So we have some fun news stories or interesting news stories there. And then we have a conversation we just kind of want to talk about sort of like boots on the ground AI. It's so easy to get caught up into the pie in the sky type stuff. But both, Beth and I, we both work with clients, and that's not what I see, and I do this day in and day out. This is my full-time job outside of, when I'm on this show. And so we want to talk about like what that looks like from our perspective, how we're actually affecting change for clients. And it's not the sexy, right? It's not the way probably a lot of people think maybe it goes in AI. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I thought, Beth, what better way than to kick off this show with some news than the transition. Well, my daughter would say the transition from Halloween to Christmas. She skips right past turkey and Thanksgiving. I do not. I am in the camp of, we can take a poll for anybody, but I'm in the camp of Christmas starts the day after Thanksgiving. My daughter is in the camp of it's November 1st, all bets are off, and Mariah Carey is playing upstairs. Which I'm not a fan of, but she legit watched a Christmas movie Saturday morning, so she was not messing around.
I'm told that Christmas season begins when a Hallmark starts putting their Hallmark Christmas movies on, and I admit I am not a fan of the Hallmark Christmas movies, but I do understand that when those happen, we're now solidly in Christmas for a portion of the population.
Maybe it's just me. I love Halloween, but I love Thanksgiving too. I love that part of the year, and I don't like it. It's the holiday season, but it being blended in, I don't know. So anyway, we're going to talk about Tom the Turkey. And why are we talking about Tom the Turkey? Well, it actually is a Google story. So I thought I'd play this really quick and let's just talk about it. Let me make sure the volume is up. Geez, did I share the tab? I think I shared the tab. Real quick, Beth, can you hear this? Oh, wait, hold on. Can you hear this?
This is Tom. Work has been weird lately. He's got to fly the coop, and fast. Luckily, AI mode in Google search can help him hatch a plan. It's got to be quick, and it's got to be, yeah. That should do it. Phew, things were getting dicey there for a moment, but now everything's gravy. Planning a quick getaway? Just ask Google.
All right, I probably skipped a little bit on your guys' side, but hold on, am I back there? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Your video was funky, yeah. But
I was like, am I here or am I not here? Anyway, people had some okay, here's the thing, right? It's clearly about Ask AI, so it's an AI commercial, and Google didn't go out of their way to say that this was AI created, but in fact they used VO3. And when interviewed, the gentleman that they were interviewing about this said, I think people, I'm paraphrasing, it's not what he said, but the gist of it was, I think people who kind of like got a little nuts about like AI, the consumer that's watching the commercial does not care. And so their way around the uncanny valley of seeing people, which it probably would not have done, and almost be a little more awkward and catch your eye more. They just had an animated version. It's not animated in the sense it's AI generated, Tom the Turkey. And Tom the Turkey is trying to get away because Thanksgiving is coming up. And that's the gist of it. If you couldn't see the choppiness, he's doing an AI search mode and it's like no Thanksgiving, planned on it. So Gwen says video bad, Brian good. Yeah, great Gwen. I got that impression. It definitely did not like me for some reason sharing that video. I apologize. But you guys got the gist of it. I think you could see the turkey for a second. You can hear the overview. So I think it's interesting. And I think, we've seen this for a while, right, Beth? Like we're going to see more of it. Netflix has done more of it. Like, this idea that we're going to see commercials. I mean, yes, the early ones, people are going to push back against Coca-Cola and are going to push back against early adopters of AI. But I mean, I think almost by the Super Bowl, you're going to see complete commercials that are, basically AI created and maybe enhanced a little bit with human over the top of it. But their budget's going to be much lower, and they're going to use a lot less people to get it done. And they're going to make a 30-second Super Bowl ad that in advertising costs whatever it costs, a couple million, whatever, for those 30 seconds, but they're only going to spend maybe 30,000 to do the commercial,
Right.
So I thought it was interesting and nothing less. There's not really more to say on it other than like, it's interesting. Google's using AI to create their commercials. And they kind of said too, like, look, this is not like we're going to create all our commercials with AI. We just did this one, and that's fine. And people should stop making such a big deal about this, basically.
Well, I mean, what you find is what you can do with AI in a way that lets you be experimental and innovate without having so much of a commitment up front, or like research and development kind of thing. So one of the people that I pay attention to for this is a creator called Framer. And he came out with Cartoon Hero 1.0. I'm in that. It's no longer available, and 2.0 is coming out. But he put out a post today about the budget of like animated things. Let me see, Framer 0. There we go. And like traditional animation is incredibly expensive, right? So a budget version, even like a small version, would be 150 to 300,000 for one episode of a traditional cartoon that we grew up with. It could go up to as much as 1 to 2 million. So like the difference between that and $10 is enormously significant.
Sure.
Or 20 or 100, right?
Yeah.
So the economic factors are really pushing against this. Also, with that kind of time, and it's like 6 to 18 months was the traditional way. With that kind of timeline, you don't have the ability to do a bunch of testing to see what's working and innovation. So I think there's no choice but to move forward in this direction. I do understand the pushback. I come from a place of like, it also throws the doors open wide. I think we're going to see a lot of perspective from people who have not had the ability to share their animated ideas.
Yeah. I've been saying it must be a really fun time to be, in the college ages or whatever. And, I always say this with my friend Dave and his wife Jessica. They both went to the Ringling School of Art and Design close to me down in Sarasota, but 96 to 2000 or 95 to 99, right? I'm talking about decades ago. But my point is, to your point, Beth, and it's not like this today. I'm not suggesting it is, or that AI has somehow made this not the case. I just know back then you rented entire rooms of computers to do your rendering. And man, did you hope it either A, didn't blip in the middle of it, or B, was the right thing when it rendered at the end of it. But we're talking about reserving a room full of computers in the late 90s for 2 days because you had to render your college project. And of course, now today we would expect things to move forward, but now with AI too, I now know that there are going to be many college students who sit in their dorm, maybe not even on campus, with a laptop, and they're going to produce really innovative new ways of storytelling that, to your point, just were not accessible either financially or just time based, or they weren't able to be at that college like Ringling, right? Where Ringling had those resources. That's what they were known for. That's not everybody everywhere, and sort of in this area, although, well, I'll pull up the next, because like I just have a quick pivot into the next news story, and then I know you have some too, Beth. But I did want to bring this up really quick. Like Gwen said, Budweiser horses can come back in AI. I think that's, and I don't know what, Gwen, your whole part, you were just saying like, hey, you could bring back Clydesdales of horses. That's obviously in the US, it's a very traditional Christmas story. Like you see the Clydesdale horses. I don't know much about this because I'm not like a huge animal advocate or knower of all these things. I do know I've heard my friends say they're not a fan of like horse and carriage rides like in the city, and that's perhaps maybe it's Andy would know. Andy's an expert with horses, right? And his wife. So when Andy's here next, we'll ask him. But apparently maybe it's not great for the hooves or the horseshoes or something like that. I'm not sure with the cobblestone. So anyway, my point to it is I don't know that Gwen meant this, but like it's funny where that'll go, like as we see these stories, because somebody will be like, boo, boo Hugo, for those who had kids back about a decade ago. I know what that is. And we don't want the AI. And then somebody's going to go, well, in doing so, we didn't actually have to use real life horses, but we still conveyed our image. And isn't that better that the horses are just galloping in the fields and we didn't do this and we didn't use, and then people are going to go, oh yeah, no, I am for that, and well, if that's what that means, so I think Beth is like, we're
Yeah. I get it, right?
yeah,
I do get it, but, like, if now the farm doesn't get paid because you just took a picture of their horses
well,
and did stuff, then,
yeah.
like, who's feeding the horses based on
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
economy?
No, exactly. You're right. And I don't know where any of that goes either. I just think that it's really easy to be like negative to AI and actors until it like positively impacts the things that you care about in your life. And
Right,
then it's like, then you're like, oh, well, now it's a conundrum. Now I'm conflicted, right? Now, like,
right.
is that better? Because it didn't include using animals in ways I'm not comfortable with using animals in commercials or whatever your reason is. Or I'm just using
Yes.
animals as an example. Now, in the same vein of, so my news tends to have this sort of like theme of content or creation, like a media creation. Adobe had their big showcase in the last week. So this isn't like super recent news, but kind of some of the things they're coming out with really do blow my mind. Some of the examples they gave, and one of them, Beth, actually it's the second one down here. It's Project Frame. That one was impressive. They were moving a light source around in a scene,
Yes.
and then they moved it inside the pumpkin, like literally just zoomed in the pumpkin. So it was lighting a pumpkin from the outside with like a carved face on it. And then they moved the light source in Adobe directly like through the nose or mouth. And then it was like there was a candle inside the pumpkin. That was a pretty impressive move. I've never seen anything like that. Again, I don't do like lighting effects. These things have been around in Adobe for a long time, but now when you layer
Mhm.
on AI, you're really starting to get some impressive things. This Project Frame Forward, I think, is very cool, where essentially you're able to make an impact on one frame. And then for every frame after that, I guess in simplistic terms, carries through that edit. And I think,
Mhm.
oh my God, I've definitely heard stories. I mean, Jyunmi has told us stories about frame by frame corrections and things that are very time consuming and monotonous, I'm sure. But people have traditionally had to do that to get movies a certain way or whatever. And so yet here, like right in this same theme, right, Beth, would love, like, how are you going to see movie studios not use this if they're able to reliably change a lighting in this, like, whatever this car, it looks like it's drifting, right?
Mhm.
This drifting scene or whatever in this freeze frame, and do that for the next 20 seconds of video. The time savings alone and whatever the cost savings has got to be astronomical, especially over any sort of this feature length. So, is AI in movies the same thing as saying like, well, voiceover actors or actors and actresses are going to be without work? Is that the same thing as somebody saying, we already use Photoshop and all the other Adobe tools every single day as part of our movie making process, let's just say. And so now Adobe has a lot of AI abilities to help us with that. In fact, one of them would line up with like voiceovers, because I think this is no, this is Light Touch. I probably had him incorrect on here, but Project Cleanup, Project Clean Take, where they showed how they were able to like change the vocal inflection. A lady was doing a voiceover, and
Mhm.
it was all human created, but she went up where she should have gone down, right, with the vocal inflection. And they were able to fix that inside Adobe, and it was very cool because they didn't have to do retakes. Still 100%, human involvement there, but just another story like Adobe and all these tools. So I think again, it's this like sort of like through line here for me is this murkiness of when are we pro okay AI and when are we going to come in with the pitchforks, and that's going to change a lot because this is a tool that has a lot of AI to it, which also
Mhm.
does impact human work. But it's clear what these can do, and I am sure Adobe Photoshop also disrupted real jobs when it became the tool of choice or whatever, 20 odd years ago, more than that. So I don't know.
Mhm.
But anyway, I have some more in that era, but I know you have some news stories as well, Beth.
So one of the things that I was paying attention to is a bunch of things dropped this weekend. So the first thing that dropped that relates to what you're talking about is NVIDIA's, let me get the name of it correct. It's a model from NVIDIA that takes a photo and actually imagines what it would have been originally. So they did this with a Greek statue, and why am I not finding it now? So it was one of the Greek statues that created that had been injured, right? So it didn't have arms, it had all that kind of stuff. And the photo imagines what it would look like, and the prompt was like add a traditional Greek classic like arms and head. What I noticed about it that I thought was interesting was the model I don't think works in that context, because then it just sort of had like the statue looked a little rubber as it went back in time, right? So it was like
Yeah.
right? That's a lovely photo. Take that screenshot.
It was a good reenactment, though.
Come watch us.
If for people should ever do the video version of this show, that's it right there.
So that was challenging, but it is interesting to go back and sort of see what these things might have imagined. That's another job, right? That's a huge amount of study, and then skill in being able to sketch that, and then skill in being able to like recreate that in a way that might work. But I do think that we're coming into a place where all of those kinds of abilities are going to be across the board. Gwen was saying that some of what you were talking about with Adobe sounds like something that Canva released as well. And I think part of what we're seeing, or what we want to be thinking about, is there a world model inside this, or is there just a crap ton of data that we're making patterns based on? You could get in the weeds and say, what's the difference with that, Beth? And I would go size, right? World model. If world model is a crap ton of patterns, it's a bigger crap ton of patterns, right? And one of the things that I was thinking is that when you first had the ability to create AI images that looked realistic, photographers would go in and say, show me the reflections in the glass. And that's where you would see like, no, or should like look at the light. Where's the light source coming from? Because sure, it seems like the light source is clearly here, but there's a weird one that's like right above the floor over here based on the light kind of stuff. So I think what we're coming towards in all of this is it looks good enough for 60% of people, and deep knowledge, you're still going to see the places where it was done.
Yeah, that's it. I love that interesting idea about like good enough, which is I think a whole can of worms to like so maybe get into, on maybe a different show, because I do think there's a lot of that. I will say that I have I'm a student of the school of good enough, because I just think like the alternative sometimes is like iterations to a point where it no longer makes sense, feasible sense to do that. Now I'll tell you, my wife is more of I'll stick it out till it's exactly the way I want it to be. And so we've had conversations over our 20 years of marriage of like, I think we're there. There's always going to be disappointment on your side, but at some point it's got to ship, right? And so like there's always that constant tension between when we're working together. If I'm trying to help her, she's trying to help me or whatever, there's always that tension of that. Right. But it is an interesting idea that's good enough, because I agree with you. I do not Tom the Turkey, right? I got the message from Google. I thought it was cute. I thought it was, Tom the Turkey's trying to get away from Thanksgiving, right? He needs anywhere to go but be on the farm where he is. Got the message. Hey, great little Tom the Turkey voiceover about using OpenAI. Now, if I freeze frame and I go in there, could you and I find faults and maybe inconsistencies with the character or a feather slightly out of place? Yeah, I assume if you and I wanted to take the time, we could do that, and dissect it. But what was the point? And I think that's what's really interesting is to me, there's going to be a lot of, but it's good enough.
Right.
Message get clear. Is the message clear? Does it get more people to think about using AI mode as part of their Google search? Done.
Well, and you've heard me rail on this. I think you need to create for the environment in which you're creating. So, Uncanny Valley, absolutely jump to something that doesn't experience Uncanny Valley in the same kind of way, which would be animation. You think things are having it's too obvious when there's some weird feather or light kind of thing. What do you do then? Like jump to where that doesn't matter.
Yep.
There is art that doesn't matter. When you were talking about Clydesdales, I was like, okay, Clyde's Pegasuses, right? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that because that is a different argument.
Yeah, you're right too. Like it's much harder to argue with,
Right?
Well, I feel like that Pegasus isn't true to form, and somebody else isn't going to go like, okay,
Yep.
yeah, like okay, that's our interpretation of it or whatever versus a real thing, No, I agree with that.
Okay, Budweiser, if you use Clyde Pegasuses, you have to come and sponsor the show and give us a tiny cut.
Yeah, that came from Beth, so it's on record for sure. That's the goal for the show, Beth. You and I are going to get rich. We'll bring some other people in too from the show, maybe Andy, or we'll cut him in. But we're going to get rich because we just talk literally about this every single day. And at some point, one of the ideas has to hit, and somebody's going to say, "That's not your original idea. You got that from the Daily AI show." We'll retire rich. Hey, you know what? That's a great point. That's a great place to pivot to one of my other stories. I wasn't going to, but it makes sense to do it on this one, which is the world's youngest self-made billionaires are a trio of 22-year-old AI founders. Did you see this, Beth?
I did.
Mercor. I want to make sure I'm saying their name, their company's name right. They got a new 10 billion valuation for their AI recruiting startup Mercor. The founders have become the youngest self-made tech billionaires, beating out Mark Zuckerberg, who debuted at age 23 2 decades ago, which for inflation, that's still really, really impressive when you think about that. But they go on to talk about how their company, which I find interesting because they pivoted. They're a pivot company. They started going to solve one problem, and in the midst of trying to solve that one problem, uncovered a different problem and then took their business that way. And I mean, there's a lot of fun, successful stories. I don't remember all of them, but I mean, certainly I think PayPal is in there. I think there's a couple of other fun, really famous stories of a pivot where you go, oh, I didn't know that's what that company started doing. And you're like, yeah, nothing to do with what they're famous for, Right. But the gist of like what they do is really, really, really cool. So I just want to talk about what they do. You have to put the pause in there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's my question too. Gwen is saying, do they have employees or is it all just theirs? Because one of the patterns that we're seeing is in both directions, actually. The more startup like you are, the fewer employees you have, the easier the pivot, right? Because you have, because you're more nimble. And then I would say, kind of obviously also the lower the split of the valuation. So if you have 3, everybody can be a billionaire.
If you have, article said they were all getting about 22%. So obviously that's not a full 100, right? But that's still a lot.
That's still a lot.
And thank you for bringing that up. And I found what I wanted here, which was originally founded in 2023. So since generative AI. Originally, the mission of the matching engineers in India with U.S. companies in need of freelance coders, right? See a need, fill a need, right? They built a recruiting platform that allowed applicants to interview with AI avatars. I'm working with a client on building an AI avatar for interviewing right now. I'm building it for them. They built a recruiting platform that allowed applicants to view AI avatars and match them to companies in need of talent. But here's the pivot. In the process, they stumbled into an in-demand world of data labeling, pairing expert-level contractors like PhDs and lawyers with frontier labs like OpenAI. All 3 appeared in Forbes 2025 Under 30. in September, shortly after Merkur debuted, blah, 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 for announced, blah, blah, blah. Okay, more on that. Okay, so yeah, anyway, like really interesting, right? Like, first of all, since generative AI, young kids see a need, fill a need. They started down that path. While they're down that path, they get into data labeling and go, oh, wait, hold on. We keep hearing about this problem. We keep hearing about this. Well, maybe we'll just go fix that problem. That seems like a bigger, meatier problem to go solve or whatever. And off they go. And now you have three people from Merkur that are all considered now. This is valuations, and we all have seen these things go. We've seen the news stories. We've seen these same companies go to zero in 2 years. So that doesn't mean that they are the next Zuckerbergs by any means, but I'm sure they have a long way to go. But pretty interesting, pretty crazy to be 22. And one of them called out and said, it's crazy. I would have been just finishing up. I think it was Harvard, maybe was one of that top schools. I would have just been finishing up my college degree right now had I not made this change in the last 24 months.
Right.
So, there you go, kids. Don't go to college. Oh wait, no, I wasn't. I was trying to think of the theme of it. I was trying to think of the theme. Like, just go build really cool stuff with AI. Skip college. You'll be a billionaire in 2 years. They just did.
Well, okay, but maybe your gap year or your gap couple years is traveling, is sort of split between traveling, and I realize that's like a there's a ton of privilege if you've just finished college and you could just travel, which costs money, and not make any money during that. But the idea of the gap year was that it is actually also really educational. So maybe you have a startup and you do a little travel and you get your stuff that way. I was thinking that in terms of the animation stories that we were talking about, because there's a concept in improv in a model called the Herald, which you don't really need to know about, other than that there is something called an analogous jump. So if you and I are doing this and we're having our daily AI show morning talk, the next scene might be us as squirrels talking about the latest news that happened in the trees, and like, these trees are good, those trees are not, that kind of thing. That's an analogous jump. That's what animation is. So you really can only do that successfully if you have a certain level of human experience storytelling. Because it's not just like, the squirrels couldn't actually just be reading the news. That's not as funny as like the story between us and the relationship and that kind of stuff. So and that's gap year. That's that period of thinking about ideas and being able to really run and pursue them. So
what else you got for news? And then I got maybe one more just to share.
Go. Because I don't have more news, but I do have the name of the NVIDIA edit, and it is called Chrono Edit, and it's at Hugging Face. And I think I popped a link in the chat, but I'll do it again.
Okay. Well, I just want to share really quick something called Skyfall. Skyfall GS, and I saw this come across the internet maybe a couple days ago, and basically they're using like your Google 3D maps where you can spin around buildings. That's really nothing necessarily new. People have been able to do that in Google for a while, but they actually are able to create like these explorable 3D urban scenes using diffusion models and real-time rendering performance. And you can kind of see them all spinning around on the screen if you're watching here, and I'll actually go down here. And so there's some interactive ones here. You can look it up by going and searching for Skyfall GS, and you'll probably find this paper. But I can actually click and drag and spin. In this particular case, there's many examples down here, but I'm looking at a stadium. I'm not sure what stadium it is. It appears to be perhaps maybe American football, could also be soccer. I can't really tell. It's not perfect, right? But it's very, very cool. And you can zoom in and you can move around. You know, one of the cooler things you can do on here, Beth, just because I think it's cool, is it doesn't just stop me at the ground. I can actually look underneath it. And I don't know why I find that interesting. You can actually let's see. You can kind of see the stadium from underneath.
Yeah.
That's weird, right? Like it's like in this 3D model, and then you have almost something that looks like fiberglass, and you can actually it's like dipping below the surface of the water, and then you're seeing like the underworld. I think I found this more fascinating, this diffusion side of all these different colors and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's really, really neat. So there you go. If you want to come up with yet another $1 million idea, what you do is you do this 3D rendering of a place that means something to a couple, but then you flip it upside down and you do this really abstract and you center it in the screen, which I can't appear to do at the moment, but if I can center it in the screen, and then you send a abstract image of the place that they love, you can't really go wrong. And who's to say? So anyway, Skyfall, I think it's very cool. Well, there's my zoom out.
It's very cool. And if you if you flip our video upside down while you're watching us do this, you'll see that Karl is a part of the underneath the visual now. So hey, Karl.
It is very cool. So go check it out, Skyfall. I just wanted to share that really cool. It's not a demo or anything. It's just me looking at the research paper. I can't go use it right now, but just goes to show what they're working with diffusion models. It explains how they go about doing it.
Right.
Very, very, very. That's not the one I want. That's the one I want. Very, very cool idea though. Gwen says cool, like Google Maps next level. Yeah, exactly, Gwen.
But also, to be clear, this is a diffusion model, which means it's generating based on the data, generating what's missing based on the data that it has. So when you get, there's a ton of information about that stadium, right? So you can generate really pretty accurate stuff. But if you went in the door, it's unlikely that the inside stuff would, it would be realistic in that there is a door and whatever it is.
Sure.
But it is not diffusion, not
yeah. And I was going to bring this up to you, when you spin, if you spin it and look at the center of the stadium field, it morphs. It morphs into all sort of the lines move. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to tell. It almost looks like a cricket ground because it's sort of oval, but then it goes more rectangle. And then there's lines, and the lines go away. Yeah. And so it's not pixel perfect representation. But just think about how cool that is, that you might be able to take something that's local to your area and turn that into a 3D rendered world. If for no other reason, just think of law enforcement or firefighting or EMS or all these areas, or pilots or anybody that has to practice in the real world, but you try to do that in a safe way. Heck, my daughter is even getting her permit here pretty soon. So even driving, if I was able to create or some company was able to create a 3D world where she could do a VR and just practice turn signals and pulling out in the traffic, but it was her world, literally the streets around us, that would be very, very cool. I could see that being super helpful. Permit tests, the state saying, hey, you got to spend 20 hours doing the virtual before we'll sign off on you even getting a permit to be in a car. Because they have online testing, but it's almost, she just took a multiple choice one. It's what do you do at this point? What do you do at that point? As opposed to something that perhaps in the future will be obtainable for people to go and actually through schools or whatever, do actual virtual immersion into their world, you know? So all sorts of cool different ways that's here. Hey, Karl, welcome. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. We were just wrapping up news. We're going to start talking about something else, but did you have any last second news stories you want to throw in now?
No. Well, there was one that AWS and OpenAI announced their multi-year strategic partnership. I think that was announced this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know more about it? I don't know anything about that one.
No, I was just reading the news release from Amazon saying they announced provides AWS world-class infrastructure to run and scale OpenAI's essentially all their models into their system. So you can probably, under this new $38 billion agreement, next 7 years, OpenAI is accessing AWS compute. So the compute comprising hundreds of thousands state-of-the-art NVIDIA GPUs. So they're just making deals in addition to the compute. So yeah, it's pretty, they have CoreWeave. They have, obviously, I think they're hanging out with Oracle, Microsoft. So yeah, it's pretty all over everything's pretty connected now.
Do you guys remember the days where AWS was sneakily basically the profit driver of all of Amazon, but people didn't really know what AWS was? I remember learning about what an S3 bucket was a long time ago, and I definitely was not an early adopter. I'm just saying I remember it. And I remember somebody explaining it to me and then also saying to me, I don't think you understand how big AWS is. And at the time I was like, I had no reason to know, but I had started my own business and I was using S3 buckets and things like that or whatever. And it was like this sort of super, like the person that was working with me sort of opened my eyes and like felt the need to stop. We were in the middle of working on my business. He's like, I think you need to understand how big of a deal this is. And
yes,
now it's like, I think most people have heard about Amazon Web Services and what they do. But yeah, there was a time there where Amazon was known as Amazon and AWS was like a giant. I mean, it still is, but it was this huge sort of underground. People didn't really know about it in the general, the general sphere of what it was or whatever. So anyway, it just made me think of like, I don't know, a decade ago or more when that was a big deal. The thing we were going to talk about, Karl, and please jump in on this, is you're perfect for this too, because you do consulting as well. I was just saying to Beth, that I said, hey, I want to talk a little bit about sort of boots on the ground and this big chasm that seems to be between like what we see in the news as far as the splashy AI, the stuff that makes, the news. And then we see reports come out and you'll see something that says, 95% of people say AI fails. And then there's all this stuff in between. And God knows we talk about it all on the show. But a lot of that does not meet reality for me. I know you've talked about it, Karl. I know, Beth, you've talked about it. So it'd be just interesting to have a quick conversation about this. And sort of my spark for this was I work a lot with clients on a whole bunch of different projects and stuff. But one of the things I just did as part of the project, we do this with all our clients, but I just happen to have a go with this, where I had personally interviewed many people around the company in different key positions and basically put together, like you do at 0 to 60, Karl, put together an AI roadmap, for lack of a better term. And there was no less than 50. I mean, it had to be more than that, 67 that I had in this presentation deck. And they were all directly from conversations I had with leaders in different areas of the business. And in fact, on my slides and stuff, I would oftentimes have direct quotes from people within the business saying, if I only had this, if this was no longer a problem for me, if I was able to do this. And so I wanted to bring that up because I guess for me, it's the real stuff that's happening. And I know I feel like we do talk about the splashy stuff, but AI in business for me isn't really revolutionary. It's quite literally, again, Karl, I've heard you talk about this, and Beth, I've heard you talk about it too, but it's quite literally going in, shutting up, listening, identifying problems, and then, there's an AI side to that. There's an AI, I think AI can help you here, or no, I don't think AI can help you here yet, is usually the case. Not even a full no or a hard no, but let's shelf that one for 3 months. I think something better is coming, but it's still just business problems. It's the same business problems people have had for a couple of years. It's just they're not aware, at least in my case, they're not aware oftentimes that AI has a potential to solve it. I'll give you another example that's not even like consulting. I was just over the weekend on yesterday, I was volunteering for my daughter's school. Now, before anybody thinks like, wow, that's amazing, Brian, they make us volunteer as parents. So that's cool. So happy to be there, but also had to be there as part of our agreements of this private school. So, it's like 10 hours a year. But anyway, I went to volunteer, and in talking to the marketing director, I said, oh, you know what it was? And Karl, you'll appreciate this too. Beth, it was this guy has to basically continue doing facility maintenance because he literally knows what all the keys do.
Yes.
Right? I mean, quite literally, that's the answer. Like, and I'm not saying that's the only reason he has a job. He's amazing. But he also knows what all the keys do. He's the keeper of literally the key knowledge, right? And I turned to this lady and I said, I mean, the thing is, we can just solve for that with AI. Not only could we take pictures of all the keys, we could take pictures of all the doors, and using his expertise knowledge, we could create a quick database here that makes it very easy to just hold up your phone to any key and go, what does this go to? And it'd be like, it looks like the key that goes to this door. It's either that door, this door, or a third distant 20%er is this door because it kind of looks like it, And she's like, you can do that? I said, I don't see any reason why not. And she's like, huh. She said, "Would you be willing to like talk to the principal about it?" I said, "I don't see any reason why not." She's like, "That could be your volunteer hours." I said, "Works for me." You know, so you're like happy to talk about AI solutions. So anyway, I'll stop talking here, and I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on this. But case in point is like it's just I was in the middle of a conversation. We started talking about keys to doors at this school and how complex that is, and I was like, I mean, we can solve this. We can solve this. I guarantee you we can solve this with AI imagery and video and stuff like that. And that's was not something that would have crossed her desk,
Right.
And it's like, all right, see a problem, solve a problem, like we were talking about earlier, right, Beth? So
Right.
just curious, like your guys' thoughts on this. I mean, I know you guys see it. It's not like, do you see this or do you not see this? I know you do, but this has been my experience going at the end of 2025 is like, we're just solving problems. It's still, for me, it's still consulting work. It's not revolutionary. The only difference is we're saying like, hey, there's an AI angle to this, or perhaps we can use AI to solve your problem. And a lot of times cheaper, faster, these kind of things, So anyway, what do you guys think? I'm just curious, how you guys are thinking about this.
Well, it's basically what you're talking about is identifying the pattern of the operations, the processes that go into operations, and where gaps are or where bottlenecks are, right? Because you were like, hey, we could just take pictures of the keys and do the thing. And I'm like, couldn't you code an NFC key that opened each thing, right?
Yeah.
Could we not shift this
Yeah, your
out? And then
solution is like, we probably get rid of the keys. Yeah.
and then when you don't want someone to have access to it, that's a much easier fix than can I have your key back, right? It's just nope, not today. Like at some point, I don't know if they even still do this, but one of the benefits of being a senior, right, was that you were trusted sometimes with keys to certain sections of high school. I was theater, so I didn't get the gym, but I did get the backstage of the theater stuff. And like then you graduate, right? I mean, those keys have to not come back. I don't still have mine because I've moved a million times since then, but I'm certain I didn't give it back.
Yeah.
So, we scared Karl away.
Yeah, we lost Karl just as we were talking about it. He's coming back in.
Yay.
But let's see if his mic works.
Yes, let's see if he has audio. Yay.
Maybe? No? Karl might be in and out here. We'll keep going. All right, keep going, Beth. Here, I'm going to give you this one, Beth.
There you go. We can hear you.
Can you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just saw very, very, very. Everything's super. Okay. No, everything's good now. Yeah. Oh. So, I didn't want to interrupt. Were you still going, Beth? I didn't.
No, go.
Just cut out and then okay.
I completed my thought. I did not return the key when I graduated. End scene.
Okay, because I missed that part because it's just there was I don't know if you two followed the AI Daily Brief, and they were talking to one of my favorite persons is Nufar Gaspar. She used to work at Google, but she's a consultant now, and they do this thing they do a automated interview, and this is how they do their discovery with companies. But one of the things is he was talking, like the guy who runs the AI Daily Brief was talking about AI for opportunity versus AI for efficiency. So majority, if not all, of everything that we're doing right now is AI for efficiency. But I really consciously trying to push our clients this way is AI for opportunity. And it's, yes, we can solve the whatever business problems, processes, workflows, and you can, add AI to it. But for us, it's like, hey, well, yes, we could do that. And yes, you'll get your efficiency gain, productivity gain, and that's fine. But what's your end goal? Is the end goal just to continue to do that? And so what we've been pushing our clients is AI for opportunity, which means, hey, could you all these different workflows, processes, how you actually do business? Can you rethink it? And
right.
rebuild it. And sometimes it's harder. The bigger the company, it's harder, especially their bigger processes, because there's layers of complexity, layers of workarounds, layers of nuances, layers of tools that have been built over years and decades. But really, why are we doing it this way? And I wrote a post about this because it feels like we're trying to build a mechanical horse. It's like, oh, we're trying to, like, the process, the workflows that we've developed is for humans, right? That's for people. But can you rethink it to be completely AI centric? And the reason why I tell the companies do this is like, hey, look, it's not your competitors who are going to use AI versus, you'll play leapfrog with each other. It doesn't matter, because you'll have a AI native or a full stack company that's going to enter your industry. I don't know how well they'll do. I don't know if they'll be successful, but they'll enter with all the
Right. They have the ability to enter from a place of looking at the processes from a completely blank slate, right?
just
We
don't
only have the few employees, we only have the systems that we have. How do we get it done? Karl, you cut out a little bit, so I just jumped in.
Oh, yeah. So when we talk about full stack, those native companies, they don't, all the things that we do to try to get people to turn their processes around, add AI to their process. They don't need to do that because the process is AI native. So
Right.
the process itself is rebuilt. So that's who you're competing against. So you can take we'll add AI here, make efficient gains. Yay, we'll pat ourselves on the back. That's great. But really, the companies that are coming in, that's who they're not band-aiding all your pieces with AI. They're just AI native. So how are you going to compete? And usually that gets them going and be like, we got to go.
Right. I think one of the challenges that we're having, that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing you guys see as well, is that when you ask a typical worker, right, what would you want? Like, imagine the thing. What they're imagining is it's easier to do their job, not right. Like if you're going to solve, I can only solve one problem. It isn't some new idea of what might bring in more opportunity, more work.
Sure.
Based on the fact that I'm out straight, right? Like to a certain extent, people are already imagining solve these problems for me before I can start to imagine something else, I think, or even engage in that kind of vision. But you're right, Karl.
Yeah.
The people who are not overwhelmed by doing the job already are in that like AI native imagining space.
So some of them are. I think a majority of the people, like you said, they want to get their jobs faster. But I'm like, I tell the leaders, hey, look, imagine if you can reduce all the tasks, all the stupid tasks that you're and I say stupid tasks because if you listen to some of the tasks, like, well, this is the most ridiculous thing you could be asking someone to do who has like a master's or a PhD or an MBA. It's like these people or have decades of experience. So you're telling me that person that you're hiring, you're paying $250K a year, their job is to review a project doc and make sure, minutes are good, spelling's good, everything's good, and just review it and pass it on. It's like, are you telling me that's how much you're paying that person? A part of the role. There's other stuff too, but it's like, imagine if you just cut all that stuff out, or at least 50-60% of it. But then what is the new role they could do? What is the new things that they could do? Like, you haven't even thought about it. Not be more efficient at my job. It's like, hey, what is the new role? And I think too, this whole, I'm going to reduce our headcount. To me, it's still short-term thinking, which means you're still thinking about it as you're just going to replace AI with the people with AI based on the tasks that they're doing. I'm like, yeah, but you're not thinking long-term. Like, how could you take the people you have, we talked about this, train 20, 25 of them instead of hiring one more person, give them $4,000 each of training advanced tools. And then what could they do with that? Versus, oh, we'll cut this, and we're going to do the exact same thing, but now we're just more efficient at it. I'm like, yeah, but you're still building a mechanical horse while this other company is building a car. So I'm trying to like, hey, you got to look at it completely different. You can't just do the same things over and over again, because it still doesn't make any sense.
And it's a huge ask for companies to invest like that, and we see it, right? We see the value of reinvestment and, like you said, training. It's one thing if we come in and solve one problem, but what if your whole staff understood how to build solutions for themselves, right? I mean, that's definitely more powerful, because then they are going to think about how they're an expert in an area. And to your point, Beth, like, how can I fix this problem for me? But that's not such a bad thing. Now, that may not be the newest, biggest, innovative thing to move the whole company forward with AI. But all those little micro fixes and efficiencies and inefficiencies that get solved add up quickly. And we see that. I primarily just work in sales. And I mean, it's not hard for us to show ROIs that are significant for the entire company. And it's if you were just to break them all down, you're like, oh, well, this one saves this one rep, 2 to 3 hours a week. That compounds quick, and that's just one area, right? Like, you can imagine what you could do across a whole company. So I think it's just, like I said, I just wanted to have a kind of a conversation about it, because this is where my brain is. It's what I work on, 40 plus hours a week. And it's my focus when obviously I'm not on the show and doing show stuff. So I just see this pattern over and over again, where it's not the big, it's not the bright, it's not the sexy. It's having the conversations like you're talking about, Karl and Beth, like you're talking about, talking to companies, helping them to understand what we're seeing, helping them to make smart, intelligent choices. And hopefully, to your point, Karl, like getting them to see the bigger picture, which, by the way, sometimes can come along by solving the smaller problems, like that can kind of tell that narrative for you, because they're seeing the wins, they're seeing the changes. But look, I've done some really cool things with AI. I know we all have, but the majority of it is like just solving problems with AI. It's not the bleeding edge of AI that I'm solving problems with. I'm solving problems with prompting and thinking and system thinking and, all the stuff people have been doing for a long time. I'm just figuring out where I can make those processes more efficient, All right, so we'll wrap it up. Do you have one more thought, Karl?
Yes. Well, just one thing too. What I've been noticing too is that, and this is not a knock against anyone who's creating tools and whatnot, but I'm just finding the people in these companies, I would say 75% can be solved with the tools that are out there today, like the ones that that are just there, right? Like your AI labs, like the major ones, the tooling, like the tools that they come with, right? Whatever that is, most people don't even know about, the deep researches, all those things that each of these companies have. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of the automation stuff, a little bit, I find like not when I just find sometimes that even doesn't apply. And then very, very few custom build, and very, very few, which I tell all our clients, do not buy anything. Like, you can't buy anything. Even if you're trained on, so it's apologies to those who like have like different, like a Lindy or a Cassidy or any of those tools, right? Because I know people who are that's their things. Like, do you really need to build to get that? Because I feel it's like there's gonna be it's a reckoning that is, it's like there, it's gonna happen. One of these labs is just gonna buy one of those things and be like, yeah, we offer that now, or we just offer this, or you can solve it without that. Like the combo of a browser plus scheduling plus this could technically get you most of the way there. You don't have to pay another tool, right? Like,
all right. Or we all have that experience with Respell, or the thing that buys it. Like, what, you can still use Respell, you just have to use it inside Salesforce, which has a very different cost structure than Respell's $20 a month thing, right? And what we're talking about is the core centrality of ops, right? Of how things, of the process by which things happen in your business, which technically you needed to know before the conversation about AI and before the conversation about automation. But it's such a harder conversation to have about AI and automation if you're like, oh, I don't know what Sally does.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
you're right.
I asked Sally for the thing.
Bigger question. Yeah.
And Sally gives it to me. So let's bring Sally. Let's have Sally come into the conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does start, and this is what a lot of people feel like. It starts to feel like Office Space, the movie. And it's like, well, what do you do? And he's like, I don't know that I do much, Dave. And it's just like that whole thing. And so it's great. There's absolutely great scenes in that movie. But like that's what people think is like, well, people are gonna come in, they're gonna ask a lot of questions, but really like underneath all this, it's really just to get rid of me. And so that's why I always when I talk to people, I'm like, it's all on how you bring this to the employees. You dump this on them, expect to get a whole lot of clamming up and not a whole lot of assistance with it, because that's on you. That's on you, the executives, on how you decide to bring this to everybody. But there's better ways to do that make people feel uplifted and important. And I don't think that's smoke. I think that's legit. I don't think AI really works without expertise. And so I am firmly in the camp of let's get more human expertise working with AI, which is kind of what you're saying, Karl, because that's a very powerful combination. If I could take anybody with, Bob that knows how to use the keys, and I can give him the tooling to work with AI, Bob can go solve 5 more problems that he's dealing with that are not the keys. Right. If I work with him, maybe I can do 1. But every time I got to start with Bob.
Yep.
If Bob knows, Bob doesn't have to start with me, and that's the big difference.
Think about this. Like every single, I'm just going to pick Claude here. Imagine like 25 people in your company know how to use the skill function, know how to use MCPs even halfway there, right? Let's just teach those 2 things and maybe add a deep research or something. Like, I'm sure most people in the company would be like, oh, I didn't know that I could do that. And they'll figure out a way to do their process using that. Like, I can't figure that out, but they will, because oh, if I put a skill here and I join 2 skills together, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Or using ChatGPT's agent mode. Oh, I didn't know that I could do this and then schedule it. Oh, I'll figure out how to, because people are very ingenious when you give them a tool, but provide a little bit of limitation on it based on, they'll figure some really interesting use functions you wouldn't even figure out. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's amazing for this. Yeah. And that's really it.
My favorite parts of training, I've said this before on the show, and we can sort of get things wrapped up here, but it's just simply when people go, oh, I don't need the example you showed me, but if you can do that, does that mean I can do this?
Yes.
It's the best. Those are the best. They give us like goosebumps, because I'm like, yes, that's a great example.
My example is there to kick your brain off.
That's it. That's it. I'll give you my best shot. And then you say like, I don't need that, but could I do this? And I'm like,
and that is an analogous leap.
There you go. There you go, Beth. Hey, we brought it all back. Perfect.
There we go.
Well, we should wrap it up there then. I do want to say really quick, because Gwen has been amazing. Gwen, you're awesome today. So many comments, so many really thought-provoking comments, as well as others. But Gwen, I've just seen your name a lot. She was saying she was at a healthcare conference where they had a preso excited about AI, but were so irresponsible what they were saying. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that too. And your heart kind of sinks, because you go, man, you were right there. You had so much opportunity. This is the moment to get this right, and people do whiff. And that is hard to watch sometimes, especially when you have the employees that have come to me before in those situations and go, oof, we really were hoping. We were really hoping, because we were ready. We were really hoping, and man, did they say everything wrong, because they don't get it,
Right. And you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like you're just doing that both two ways.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for hanging out with us. Glad you could make it, Karl, and join us. That's really appreciated. And tomorrow, more of the same. You guys know how it goes. We'll be here 5 days a week. If you don't know how it goes, we're here 5 days a week, live at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And we also go out on the podcast platforms. If you are on Spotify, you could actually watch this as video or listen to us. And of course, the other podcast platforms are mostly listening, and obviously we're live here on YouTube. So all different ways you can interact, play along, listen, as Gwen and so many others did in the comments today. So thanks everybody, and we will see you again tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.
Go. Ooh, after show. Thanks, everybody. This was great.